sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
You know her music, you know her philanthropy, but did you ever wonder about the choices that kind of shaped Dolly Parton's path? Specifically, why she and her late husband, Carl Dean, never had children.
It's a question that sparked a lot of curiosity over the years, especially for someone as globally loved and admired as Dolly.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we're diving into today using this People magazine article called Why Dolly Parton and Late Husband Carl Dean Never Had Kids, I Had Freedom. Even just the title itself is intriguing, right? Hinting at a connection between her family choices and her career.
Yeah, it definitely suggests that her decision wasn't just about not having children, but rather about actively choosing a different path, one that she felt would offer her a specific kind of freedom.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with Dolly's early life, the article mentions that she moved to Nashville at just 18 to pursue her music dreams. That takes guts. I can't imagine leaving everything behind at that age to chase such a big, uncertain dream.
Yeah, no kidding. That move speaks volumes about her ambition and drive, for sure. Remember, this was the 1960s, and for a young woman, especially in the world of country music, that level of self-determination was even more remarkable. She was already bucking trends right from the get-go.
Right, yeah. It's like she had this inner compass guiding her toward her purpose, even before she achieved the level of success she has today. And it was right around this time, just as her career was taking off, that she met Carl Dean, right?
Yes, at a laundromat of all places.
Yeah.
Quite a down-to-earth beginning for a couple who would go on to have such a legendary yet remarkably private love story.
Yeah, it's that mix of being a global icon while staying grounded that I find so fascinating about her. But let's get to the heart of this deep dive. Why no children? The article features this powerful quote from Dolly to Oprah. Since I had no kids and my husband was pretty independent, I had freedom. So I think a big part of my whole success is the fact that I was free to work.
What's striking about that statement is how she directly links her freedom to her career success. It suggests that she saw having children as a potential obstacle to fully realizing her creative potential, not necessarily as a negative choice in itself.
That reframing is really interesting. It's like she understood that for her to truly thrive in her career, she needed that space and flexibility that might have been harder to come by as a parent, especially given the demands of the music industry.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Constant touring, late-night recording sessions, the unpredictable nature of songwriting. It's a lifestyle that doesn't easily lend itself to traditional family life.
And while some people make it work, it seems like for Dolly, that wasn't the path she envisioned for herself. She had this laser focus on her music, and maybe she knew, instinctively, that dividing her attention would felt like a compromise, one she wasn't willing to make.
It's also worth considering the social context, too. Back then, a woman in country music choosing her career over motherhood was almost unheard of. It could have even been career suicide.
That's a really good point. It speaks to Dolly's independent spirit, her willingness to defy expectations and carve her own path. But even though she didn't have children of her own, there's this other quote in the article that reveals a different side of her connection to kids. I didn't have children because I believed that God didn't mean for me to have kids, so everybody's kids could be mine.
Now, this quote gets to the heart of Dolly's unique approach to family and her deep-seated belief in a broader sense of responsibility for children beyond traditional familial ties.
There's such a depth of feeling in that statement, like a sense of calling almost. It's not just about a personal decision. It's about embracing a wider purpose. And it makes me think of her imagination library, which might be one of the most beautiful examples of turning a personal choice into a force for good.
Oh, you're so right. Her decision not to have biological children almost seems to fuel her dedication to nurturing and supporting children, everywhere. She's channeling that energy into something that benefits millions of kids.
For those unfamiliar, the Imagination Library sends free books to kids from birth until they start school. It's reached over 185 million children, can you believe that? And it's not just about literacy, it's about sparking imagination, about opening up worlds of possibilities for kids who might not otherwise have access to books.
Absolutely. It's about fostering a love of learning, planting seeds of possibility, and showing kids that someone believes in them even if they've never met. It's almost like she's creating an extended family through this program, one that transcends geographical boundaries and socioeconomic differences.
It's such a powerful testament to how we can redefine what family means, how it can be a network of support and love that goes beyond the traditional definitions. It reminds us that we can have profound impacts on the lives of children, even if we don't have our own.
And it speaks to Dolly's unwavering belief in the power of nurturing potential, regardless of where it's found. But let's not forget that amidst all this career success and philanthropy, there was still a deeply personal love story at the core of it all.
Absolutely. It's easy to get swept up in the Dolly Parton spectacle, but at the heart of it all was this incredibly enduring love story with Carl Dean, a man who seemed content to live a quieter life, allowing Dolly to shine. The article mentions they were married for nearly 60 years. That's almost unheard of, especially in the world of entertainment.
And it was a conscious choice on both their parts to keep their relationship largely private, too. They rarely made public appearances together and seemed to cherish that separation between their public and private lives.
There's something really beautiful about that, creating a sanctuary away from the spotlight, a space where they could just be themselves without the pressure of public scrutiny.
It speaks to a different kind of freedom they cultivated within their relationship, a freedom to be authentic, to define their own happiness on their own terms. And this leads us to something worth exploring further: how Carl Dean's unwavering support might have actually contributed to Dolly's ability to fully embrace both her career and her philanthropic passions.
That's an interesting angle. So even though they didn't have children together, their partnership was still like a crucial ingredient in the recipe for her success and the choices she made. It wasn't just about individual freedom. It was about finding that perfect balance and support within their relationship.
Exactly. And that dynamic is something we'll delve into more deeply as we continue this deep dive. But before we move on, there's a particular anecdote in the article that I think perfectly captures this unique balance they struck between their down-to-earth personal lives and Dolly's dazzling career. The article mentions that even with their busy schedules, Dolly and Carl would sneak away for low-key dates, driving through the Smoky Mountains, grabbing fast food, even staying in modest motels.
It paints such a charming picture, doesn't it? This global superstar, known for her glamorous persona, like finding joy in simple pleasures with the man she loved.
Yeah, for sure. It really humanizes them, showing that despite their extraordinary lives, they value those ordinary moments of connection. It suggests that they found a way to nurture their relationship amidst the whirlwind of Dolly's career, creating a space where they could just be Carl and Dolly, not Dolly Parton, the superstar, and her husband.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that Carl's support was crucial to Dolly's choices, and this anecdote really highlights that. By embracing a simpler lifestyle together, they create a balance that allowed Dolly to shine on stage while maintaining a sense of normalcy in their personal lives. It makes you wonder how their dynamic might have influenced her decision not to have children.
That's a great observation, and it takes us back to that idea of freedom we've been discussing. It wasn't just about Dolly having the freedom to pursue her career. It was about creating a shared freedom within the relationship, a freedom from the constraints of societal expectations and the pressures that often come with traditional family structures.
So they were both choosing a different kind of freedom, one that prioritized their unique bond and allowed them to define their own version of happiness. And as we've seen, that freedom extended beyond their relationship, shaping Dolly's approach to her career and even her philanthropy.
Exactly. Her story challenges that old narrative that a woman has to choose between career success and personal fulfillment. She found a way to weave those aspects together, creating a life rich with creative expression, love, and a deep sense of purpose.
But it wasn't without sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
The article touches on how dedicated she was to her work, even mentioning that she often missed out on holidays and family gatherings to focus on her career. Do you think that sense of sacrifice played a role in shaping her image as everybody's mother? Like as someone who pours so much love and energy into children through her music and philanthropy?
That's an intriguing connection, and it speaks to the complexities of her choices. Perhaps by channeling that maternal energy into a broader sense of care for children, she found a way to reconcile her dedication to her work with her deep affection for kids. It's almost as if she's creating a chosen family, a global network of children she can nurture and inspire through her art and generosity.
And in doing so, she's challenging that traditional definition of family. She's showing us that family can be a much broader, more fluid concept, encompassing those we choose to love and support, even beyond biological ties.
Exactly. And this brings us to a point worth unpacking further, that evolving definition of family you mentioned. For a long time, society presented a very narrow view of what a family should look like. Married couple, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, the whole 9 yards. but thankfully that's starting to shift.
Right. It feels like we're finally acknowledging that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to family. More and more people are embracing different models. Single parents, blended families, LGBTQ plus families, chosen families, multi-generational households. The list goes on.
And it's about time. This wider acceptance allows individuals and couples to create families that reflect their own values and circumstances, fostering a greater sense of belonging and acceptance for everyone.
It's about celebrating the diversity of human connection and recognizing that love and support can come from many different sources. It's not about conforming to a predetermined ideal. It's about finding what works for you and creating a family structure that feels authentic and fulfilling.
And Dolly's story, even though it unfolded decades ago, still feels incredibly relevant to these conversations. She was, in many ways, ahead of her time, demonstrating that you can have a fulfilling life, a loving partnership, and make a meaningful impact on the world without conforming to those traditional expectations.
And it's not just about her personal choices, right? She's actively contributing to this shift in perspective through her philanthropy. The Imagination Library isn't just about books, it's about supporting children and families in all their diverse forms, regardless of background or circumstance.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that every child deserves a chance to thrive, and that often requires a community of support. And Dolly's created this incredible network of care, one book at a time.
It makes me think of that quote, "It takes a village to raise a child." It's like she's building that village through her work, extending her heart and resources to create a sense of belonging for children everywhere.
And it circles back to that powerful idea of everybody's kids could be mine. She's not just talking about biological children, she's talking about embracing a wider sense of responsibility for nurturing the potential in every child.
And that's a powerful message, especially in a world that often feels increasingly divided. She's showing us that we can choose to create connections, to build bridges of compassion and support, even across differences.
And it starts with questioning those old assumptions, those societal norms that tell us there's only one right way to live, one right way to build a family, one right way to define success.
So maybe the real question isn't, why didn't Dolly have children? But rather, what can we learn from her choices about creating a more inclusive, compassionate world where everyone feels empowered to define their own version of family and fulfillment?
Now that's a question worth pondering. And it leads us to another aspect of Dolly's story that's often overlooked, the bittersweet reality of loss.
As we know, Carl Dean passed away recently at the age of 82. Even though they lived a largely private life, it still felt like a collective loss, like a reminder that even the most enduring love stories eventually come to an end.
It certainly touched a lot of hearts, and it makes us reflect on the depth of their bond, a partnership that spanned nearly 6 decades. The article mentions that it was a private ceremony, which feels fitting given their commitment to keeping their personal lives out of the public eye.
Right, yeah. It seems they found freedom not just in their choices, but also in how they chose to share or not share their lives with the world. And in a way, that makes Dolly's public tribute to Carl even more poignant. She wrote, "Carl and I spent many wonderful years together. Words can't do justice to the love we shared for over 60 years.
Yeah, a simple yet profound statement that speaks volumes about the enduring power of their connection. It makes you realize that behind all the glitz and glamour, there was this bedrock of love and mutual respect that sustained them through thick and thin.
It's a powerful reminder that even the biggest stars experience the same human emotions, the same joys and sorrows as the rest of us. And it makes their story all the more relatable, doesn't it? It's a love story, a story of partnership, and a story of finding your own path to happiness, even if it looks different from what society might expect.
Exactly. And it circles back to those key themes we've been exploring: choice, freedom, and the evolving definition of family. Dolly's story shows us that those concepts aren't fixed, but rather fluid, adaptable to the unique circumstances and aspirations of each individual.
It's like she's giving us permission to question those preconceived notions we might have about what a successful life, a fulfilling partnership, or a meaningful family should look like. She's showing us that there are countless ways to define those things, and what truly matters is finding what resonates with your own values and brings you joy.
And she's also demonstrating that sometimes choosing a different path, a less conventional one, can actually lead to a richer, more authentic life. It's about having the courage to define success and happiness on your own terms, even if it means going against the grain.
It's like she's saying, don't be afraid to color outside the lines. Embrace your individuality, trust your intuition, and create a life that feels true to you. And that's a message that resonates deeply, especially for those of us who might feel pressured to conform to societal expectations.
It's a call to action, an invitation to explore the possibilities beyond the prescribed path. And it's something we can all apply to our own lives, whether we're making decisions about family, career, or simply how we choose to show up in the world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Dolly Parton's world, I think it's important to leave our listeners with this question. What choices will you make to create a life that feels truly authentic and fulfilling? What conventions are you willing to challenge? What dreams are you ready to chase?
Because in the end, it's not about following someone else's blueprint for happiness. It's about finding your own voice, your own rhythm, and creating a melody that sings true to your heart.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you with a bit of Dolly wisdom to ponder. Find out who you are and do it on purpose. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating a life that lights you up from the inside out.